2020 CA1 CHIJ St. Nicholas Girls. For the first question, words and numerals, and this is quite normal. Usually this is the case, words and numerals for the first few questions. The trick I use is to write the numbers down. So 604, so I'm going to write 604 and add 3 zeros because for 1,000 there are 3 zeros followed by 712. So what we can do next is to simply add the numbers up and we have the answer number 2. Next we have a conversion from decimals to fractions. The first thing we'll do is to write it as a fraction. So 9.08, that's 9 wholes. 0.08, you see 2 spaces here. So I'm going to write 8 as the numerator and 2 spaces, 2 zeros. The next thing we will do is to simplify. So 8 and 100 both can be simplified by dividing by 4, getting us the answer of 9 and 2 over 25. 41.95 rounded to 1 decimal place. So we're going to look at 5. This is the 1 decimal place. We're going to look at the number next to it. That's 5. 5 means we have to round that up. That's adding 1 to 9. That gives us 10. So we have that 0 here. And what happens to the 1? It gets carried over to 41 ones. So 41 plus 1, that gives us 42. And 0.0, that's the answer in 1 decimal place. Question 4, reading protractors. Now, because this angle is acute, then we will have to read from the right side. That means from this inner ring right here. So we're going to start with 0 from the right side and we're going to read up like that. So next thing to do is to just look carefully at this 70 here. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So that's around 74 degrees. So this is one of the few questions that don't require a working. So you kind of have to know your units. Now in this case, the length of an adult-sized bed, that is 1.9 meters. That makes sense. So longer than the typical height of an adult. So the answer is number 3. No working needed. And now we have our first level 2 make everything clear question. So we are given a bunch of information here. So K is 118, that's a real number. L is 42 cm shorter than M, which means M is taller by 42. And the total is 390 centimeters. And we are now going to form an equation. So removing 118 from 390 gets us 272. That actually represents 2u plus 42 after removing 118. So eventually you will try to solve and find 1 unit. Next, before we are done, read the question requirements. What is Lena's height? And you can see there, because we have made everything clear, we are interested in 1 unit. Therefore, the answer is 115. So next up, we are looking at a graph question. So shows the number of visitors from 2015 to 2019. The question, during which 1 year period was the increase the greatest? So I'm only focusing on the years when there was an actual increase. So 2015 to 16, there was a decrease. So I'm going to ignore that. I'm interested in the 2 periods of increase here. So just read the graph and find the increases. In this case, I found that it's 15 and 10. So which one is the greatest one? That will be 15, being greater than 10. So which time period is that? So the answer is number 2, between 2016 to 2017. Now, the next part here, we're going to find out how many years were there more than 30k visitors. So I'm going to draw a horizontal line here, looking at 30,000 here. Draw a horizontal line, okay, at 30,000. And then understand that I'm going to look out for the years above that line. So that's 1, 2, and 3. That would be 17, 18, and 2019. How many years was that true? That's the total of 3 years, which is parallel to E and F. So looking at E, F, that's 2 units by 1 unit. What I mean by that is this. Look at from E to F. That's 2 units to the right, 1 unit to 1 unit up. So, well, one way to do this is to see whether a line looks like it's parallel, but it's always better to be sure rather than going by appearance. Now, in this case, from B to A, notice that it's the same slope, which is 2 to the right, 1 up. 2 right, 1 up, 2 right, 1 up. Okay, so because it's the same gradient is the same slope, these two are parallel. AB is parallel to, BA is parallel to EF. And level 2, again, factors and multiples. A number is between 15 and 50, so that's useful. We are limited, so we don't have to go crazy finding a lot of numbers. So the common multiple of 4 and 8. So I'm going to list multiples of 8, right? And here we go. So, but make sure that we don't have to go over 50. Okay, next, I'm going to check that it is also has 6 as a factor. So for each of these multiples of 8, I'm going to check, do they have 6 as a factor? That's true for 24, and that's true for 48. Well, out of the 4 choices, we see 48, we don't see 24, therefore number 4 is the answer. Here we have area and perimeter, level 2. So what should we focus on first? The length is twice its breadth. Well, we can assign units to that. So from here, I can say that L is 2 units, the length, and the breadth is 1 unit. So I can therefore say that 2u, 2u, 1u, 1u, 2u, 2u, added all together, the perimeter of the entire figure is 80 centimeters. So from there, from an equation, and solve for 1 unit, being 8. Next, we are interested in the length of each rectangle. So according to our diagram, it's 2 units. Well, we have found what 1 unit is, which is 8. So let's find 2 units, which of course is 16 centimeters. So we have fractions here. We are going to make everything clear first. So 205 kilograms was used to bake a cake. 1/4 kilograms used to bake cookies. Question, how much flour did she use altogether? Well, what's used? The total here being used. So after making everything clear, we are going to sum them up. And in this case, we have a denominator of 5 and 4. So to sum them up, before that, we have to make them both 20. Make them the same. Add the numerators together, and here we are. 13 or 20 kilograms. Madam Sharifa bought 15 meters to give to her 6 pupils equally. Now, from here, we can form an equation saying 6 pupils are going to share 15 meters of ribbon equally. So next thing we'll do is to find the length given to 1 pupil. That is a division of 6. So we're going to take the 15 meters divided by 6. Both happen to be multiples of 3, so let's divide it by 3, 5/2. And here we are. The answer is 2.5 meters each. Question 14, level 2 elimination. Well, so we have 2 unknowns here. We've got a file, we've got a pen. Well, we can't solve yet, so let's use what they give us. The first thing I'll act on is 3 files equals to 4 pens. Great. Now, because we have to deal with 8 pens, so when I multiply by 2, I get this statement here. 6 files equals to the cost of 8 pens. Now what that means is 8 pens cost the same as 6 files. So I can do this. I don't have to say 8 pens anymore. I can just simply call this 6 files. Now 6 files therefore plus 2 files, that's 8 files. So if 8 files is $32, I can actually find the cost of 1 file. So let's do that. 6F plus 2F is 32, 8F is 32, 1F is $4, and voila, that happens to be what the question wants, the cost of 1 file. Well, for this question type, I call it positioning, so let's see how that works. Well, there were 7 seats to Ivan's left, so Ivan himself is on 1 seat and 7 to his left, and 19 to his right. Well, that forms 1 row, so I can actually find the number of seats in 1 row. That would be 7 plus 1 Ivan's seat and 19, so 27 rows altogether. Sorry, it's 27 seats in 1 row altogether. And it's given to us that there were 5 rows behind him. So behind Ivan's row, that's 5. This is Ivan's row itself, and there were 14 rows in front of him, giving us a total of 20 rows. Well, what's the total number of seats? That would be 20 rows of 27 seats each. So that's a multiplication step and giving us 540 as the answer. For this question, I will simplify things. The long way to do this is to actually carry out the vertical multiplication of 150 times 700. Not a good idea. So what we can do is to focus simply on 15 times 7. And you see the 3 zeros here? We'll just write it as times 1000 and add the 3 zeros to our final answer. So really all you need to do is to times 15 and 7 together. Then add 3 zeros at the end. We have a number line here involving fractions. So the first thing I usually do is to count the spaces. So counting the spaces, I can see that this goes from 2 holes to 3 holes. That's an increase of 1. So how many spaces form 1? So that's 2, 4, 6, 8. So 8 units represent 1. And that means 1 unit is 1/8. 1 divided by 8. The question, the arrow here is pointing to this space here, which is 1 unit less than 3 holes. Since we know 1 unit is 1/8, our required fraction is 3 holes minus 1/8, less than 3. So that's 3 holes minus 1/8, giving us 2 and 7/8. Here we're going to compare the values of decimals and fractions. Now, the first thing I want to do is to work with the same thing. I want everything to be in decimals, and 5/8 can be converted to a decimal by multiplying 125 top and bottom. That gives us 625/1000, that's 0.625. The next thing I like to do is to stack and compare the place values. So what do I mean by that? 0.56, easy. 0.625, what we just obtained, 568. Then just look, we are interested in increasing order, so we're going to start off with the smallest first, and it happens to be number 1 here, 0.56. Okay, now the largest is clearly 625, all right, and then the next largest will be 0.568. Now remember, we are not supposed to write 0.625. We're supposed to write what was given to us, which is 5/8. So the largest one is actually a fraction, 5/8. And that's how you do this. Well, Jane is facing northwest right now, so I used an arrow to indicate her starting position. And in which angle must she turn anti-clockwise? So we're going this way, okay, anti-clockwise. So the start is this, and the end is this, to face east in the end. So I'm going to go anti-clockwise. So going from here to here is 180 degrees and another 45 degrees. So what's the total angles that's turned? So that's 180 plus 45, that's 225 degrees anti-clockwise. And here we have a question involving time. Joshua was at a concert. His watch was 20 minutes fast. Well, that's another way of saying the actual time was 20 minutes slower. So you notice that it ended at 10:10 p.m. This is on his watch, which in reality is 20 minutes fast. So for the actual time when the concert ended, we need to go back 20 minutes. Right, it's actually slower. So we're gonna go back 10, so that's 10 p.m. Go back another 10, that's 9:50 p.m. So we're gonna use a timeline for this question. Now don't forget, we have to pay attention to the special requirements. Make it a habit of yours, always, to pay attention to this. So sometimes they could ask for decimals, 1 decimal place, write your answer in grams, things like that. In this case, we want a 24-hour clock. So do not write 9:58 p.m. as your answer, it should be 21:50. Well, we've got 41 tenths, right? That's basically going to be 41/10. So I'm going to convert all to fractions or decimals. So this is just words. So 41 tenths, think of it as 41/10. 65, right? Write 65. Thousands with a TH, let's put a 1000 below. Next, convert all to decimals. So see here, dividing by 10 just means jumping 1 space to the left, and that's 4.1. 65, jump 3 spaces to the left. So imagine 65 here, it goes 1, 2, 3. So it's 0.065. So once you have this, add them together and you will get the answer. Kumar bought 96 mangoes at 3 for $5. Well, the first thing we want to deal with is how many groups of 3 are there in these 96 mangoes. So 96, how many groups of 3? So that's division by 3. So we have 32 groups. And each of these groups of 3 will sell for $5 each. So because each group costs $5, then what's the sales here? It's going to be 32 times 5, giving us $160. Age-related question. 4 years ago, Richard was 3 times as old as Adele. Now the total is 44. Okay, so let's draw a diagram, shall we? So Richard, Adele, 4 years ago, Richard was 3 units, 3 times of Adele, 1 unit. Now, the ages now will be plus 4. So this was 4 years ago. Now we have to add 4 to it. So 3u plus 4, that's here. That's Richard's age now. And Adele will be 1u plus 4. And the total here is 44. This is enough information for us to form an equation. So 3u plus 4, Richard now, and Adele now, 1u plus 4, add up to 44. So we can find 1 unit from there. The question is, how old is Adele now? Looking at the diagram, it is 1u plus 4. Since we have 1u as being 9, 1u plus 4 is there, 4, 9 plus 4, the answer is 13. The figure below is made out of similar squares. Well, actually we have squares and triangles, but more on that later. How many more squares must be shaded? Well, how many more squares must be shaded? We should find out the number of squares currently shaded. Well, the total is 15. Currently shaded is 4. Now, how do we know that? Because 2 triangles make up 1 square, for example. What's the current number of shaded squares? That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And here we have the 4th one, because 2 triangles make up 1 square. Okay, so currently shaded, we have 4 squares. But the question wants us to have 2/3 of the total shaded in the end. So what's 2/3 of 15? 15 being the total, it's 10. So if there are 4 currently shaded and you want 10 shaded in the end, what's the additional number to be shaded? That is 6. So we have a rectangle here. A is twice of B, so I'm going to call angle A 2 units and B 1 unit. With this, we can actually form an equation. Why? Because we know that the corner of a rectangle is a right angle, 90 degrees. So the equation looks like this. 2u plus 1u plus 18 is 90 degrees. And we can solve for 1 unit, giving us 24 degrees. Find angle A. Now, angle A happens to be 2 units. So 1 unit is 24, 2u is 48. Leanne baked some fruit tarts. How many? We don't really know. She gave 28 to her neighbor. Well, that's minus 28. And 140 to some friends. That's minus 140. She then had 4 out of 7 units left. Well, we should draw a model to show the changes. So we have a total of 1 whole, 7 out of 7 units. Okay, why 7 out of 7? Because I see a 7 as the denominator. So if it's 10, denominator 10, then I'm going to write 10 over 10 as 1 whole. So we're going to show minus 28, minus 140, and the question tells us she had 4 out of 7 units left. Now, here, we actually need to infer. If 4 units were left and the total was 7 units, doesn't that mean 3 units were given away in total? So this means 28 and 140 actually represent 3 units. We can form an equation with that. So 3 units out of 7 represent 168. 1 unit is going to be 168 divided by 356. Question: how many did she actually bake? So we're interested in the total that she had at first. So given that 1 unit is 56, therefore 7 units, we'll have to take 56 times 7, giving us 392. The table shows number of muffins sold by a bakery in 5 months. So all these numbers here. The difference between the muffins sold between April and May is the same as the number of muffins sold in March. Okay, so let's first find the difference between, well, we know for sure March is 120, so keep that in mind. What's the difference between April and May? That would be 360 minus 240, that's 120. So is it true that they are the same? Yes, so that's a true statement right there. So we're going to compare and calculate. So next up, the number of muffins sold in Feb is twice that sold in May. Okay, so what was sold in February? That's 320. So I'm going to divide that by 2 because supposedly February would be 2 units, May would be 1 unit. So if this is 2 units, what's 1 unit then? Divide by 2, 160. So let's look at May. Was May 160? Nope. Okay. it was 240. So that statement is not half of February, so that is false. Tables and graphs, so we have this part here that's covered up, but what we do know is that those who read 1 book a week were 10 of them. Those who read 2 a week were 8 of them. So I can fill in this part of the table from what's given to me here. Okay, so how do we obtain 54? That's when we can see that those who read 3 books was 3 times the total of those who read 1 and 2 books. Okay, so here 1 and 2 books, that's a total of 18. And those who read 3 books a week was 3 times of that. So sum these two up and triple that. So that gives us 54. Well, for this question, I call it the speedi-peri. Well, it's just a short way of saying speedy way of finding perimeter. Now, let me show you what I mean by that. So what we want is the perimeter of the white carpet, which is this portion right here, the white carpet. Well, a few things first. If you look at this 42 meter length here, this is known, 10, okay? This is known, this is 2 meters given here. This is 10 as well. This is 10 up here, 10 below. That means we can find this portion here, the green one. And that is 42 minus 2 tenths minus 2, giving us 20. So this green portion is 20, this green portion is 20. The question now is, I don't know what this is individually, and I don't know what this is. Okay, so how do I find that? Well, suppose you got this line here, and you got this line here. They added up, we don't need to know them individually, but added up, they actually form 28. So this is what I mean by speedi-peri. So do not bother yourself with what's this individually, just know that those 2 of them added up is 28. Same goes for this portion here. That both added up becomes 28 as well. So what do we have for the perimeter? Two greens, 2 purples, 2 blues. Okay, so the perimeter is therefore 2 28s, the purples, 2 2s, the blue part, and 2 20s, the green parts. Therefore, the perimeter is 100 meters. Question 30 is a number patterns question. So the first thing we try to do is to spot the patterns. Now, for the total number, I see 4, 9, 16, that, if you're familiar, are perfect squares. So 4 is also known as 2 times 2. 9 is also known as 3 times 3. 16 is also known as 4 times 4. What's next? That would be 5 times 5. So for figure 1, we've got 2 times 2. Figure 2, 3 times 3. Figure 3, 4 times 4. Figure 4, 5 times 5. Figure 10, we would have 11 times 11, for example. So already we know this part here. Next, 1, 3, 6. So the difference here is 2, 3. Next number will therefore be 6 plus 4. From 3 to 6, that's 3. 6 to 10, that's plus 4. 10 to 15, that's plus 5. So tables filled. Next part. Part B. What is the total in figure 10? So we're interested here. Total 10. In figure 10, I mean. Right? So for figure 10, that will be 11 times 11, giving us 21. So the number of triangles in total is basically the figure number plus 1, and then you square it. You multiply by itself. And that's it. And now we have reached the end of this paper, and there are a total of 30 questions, 11 of which are intermediate, so that's 36.7% being level 2. So congratulations on finishing it, and hope you had fun.